Good evening. It's 5:35, and we have quorum tonight. So, Suki, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Kane?
Here.
Ms. Corris?
Here.
Mr. Miles?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien? Mr. Shuddy?
Here.
Mr. Taylor? Ms. Wu?
Here. All right. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting of March 20th, 2019. Do you have a motion?
I so move.
Moved by Stan. Second from anybody?
Seconded.
Second by Diane. Is there any discussion, corrections? All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? All right, are there any additions to the agenda? I believe Brandon, who wasn't able to be here, did send something that was up for discussion. Let me see here for a second.
Item C.
Oh, is it already on here?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. It's already on here. Item C.
Where's it at?
It's under presentations, item C, vendor product selection offered.
That's me.
All right, okay, so no additions to the agenda. Is there any public input today?
Yes,
Yes, sir, can you state your name, please?
Ken Campbell, Campbell Apiaries, Charleston, Illinois. And I had a question and a couple comments about our internet advertising. I believe we've got three different modes of information for the market. We've got Facebook and market email, and then the urbanamarket.org. And I think that's it, isn't it?
Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Twitter.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
But as far as the urbanamarket.org goes, there's a cost for that, and are the others free?
Yes.
Okay. How do we update or how does one update the market website?
We updated in-house.
Okay. The reason I'm asking about this is at the bottom of the web page, when I looked up the terms for this, it looks like it might be called a carousel or a slider. So there's 3 pages, and you can scroll across and read different articles. And I think that could be updated. There's information on there that dates back to 2017 when the website was first created. So right at the moment, we've got an article that's talking about how the website's brand new. We've got CSA events from 2017, 2018, 2019. And so, like I say, I think some of those could be taken off, but I think people will skim over that, not pay attention to it, because they're all past events. And I'm not a website designer, but when I looked the term up, I found a couple articles that mentioned that type of a slider, carousel, or however you would describe it, that people don't pay too much attention to it, that they'll skim over something like that. So I have no suggestions, but I'd just like to see the website updated a bit more. That's all I had to input.
Okay, thank you very much. I apologize. Lori, I asked if you wanted to kind of talk about your new role at the city.
Sure, thank you. I'm Laura Pearson, a planner by trade, but come October 17th, I'll become Director of Community Development, which is the department over which economic development and the market sits. So just wanted to introduce myself, thank you. I'll be leaving at 7 for the ZBA meeting, so if you're still needed and you see me leave, it's not personal. Thank you.
All right, with no other public input, we'll start with presentations and the staff report. Brian?
Yes. All right. I don't know if I can activate the PowerPoint from here, though.
You are-
Oh, no, I can't.
Okay.
There you go. I'm gonna go that way, though. So first thing we're going to start this. Sorry, we go backwards, but I'm afraid I'll just wind up going farther forward. Okay, there you go. All right. I'd like to announce we've added a new program specialist position that's going to be split part-time between the Public Arts and Culture Program and the Market at the Square. And that person is Heather Ann Lehman. I think some of you have probably seen her out at the market already. She started work in July and then was on maternity leave for 6 weeks and has just started back last week. So she has been updating our social media and website, and she will be, out at the market, kind of assisting with setup and tear down, snap distribution. Generally, she will fill in for me when I'm not there, so she will be the contact person. And then beyond that, we have been maintaining a staff of 4 part-time market aides this year, and that has so far worked out pretty well. And they are the ones that are responsible for setup and tear down, and they also deal with the SNAP program out there on a rotating basis, as well as like the crowd and policy enforcement, like chasing dogs out of the market, as well as maintaining attendance counts for our various SNAP grants. That's one of the big things we do is count people at the market. All right, ongoing programs. So let me see what I've got in my presentation because I think it's a little bit crazy. So far to date, we've had 199 vendors approved for the market, and that's 5 off of the total for last year. Last year we had a total of 204, and pretty much the group numbers kind of varied over last year. We are down a little bit on, anyway. Sorry, the growers, there's not 50 growers. I think I transposed the grower number with the value added number. But yeah, food trucks have, I think we've lost 1 food truck over the 13 we had last season. And then arts and crafts still maintain the thing.
So there's 22 growers?
Yeah,
Switch.
currently there are, yeah. So we've had a couple of growers who have, 22 growers, 50 value added.
What's that mean?
Central and
What does
low.
that-
Value add.
What is value?
So value added are like bakers or candy makers or cookie makers, like people that are combining ingredients and bringing a finished product to the market rather than the raw ingredients.
Do you have ones that cross over, which I'll bring up later, but they're a grower and they're value added too? Or does that
Yes,
really
we
matter?
do have a few. We have a couple that like bring fresh fruits and vegetables, but also sell some like baked items.
So they're counted twice there?
That's a good question. I doubt that they're counted twice. I probably counted them once. And I think the one instance that I think we only really have one vendor that does that, and I counted them as a grower because he's also eligible through that program to like do SNAP and all that stuff. So I counted him as a grower.
Wow.
Yeah, so we've lost a few people either to, we've had some vendors pass away. We've had others that are taking a year off or something. And I think a lot of vendors, a lot of growers, like the peach vendors and the corn vendors and a couple of the smaller farms have really been impacted by the weather this season. So I know there's a couple of small, like single person operations that were at the market last year that signed up for the market but have not actually attended this year, and I left that number as the 22 as like the number of active people, not just the people who applied. I think that's why that's probably got mixed up.
And that is from last year, up or down? Because I don't remember seeing that number last year.
The total vendor number is down.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just worried about, well, I shouldn't say that, but the grower number.
The
I'm worried about everybody. I'm sorry, I take
The
that
grower
back.
number is down by two, I believe, because we had one farm that definitely did not
Clients that
return,
out.
and then we just, like another farm disappeared. So,
Interesting.
but it's like kind of a little seesaw. We go up, we go down,
Right.
we go up, we go down. But yeah, it's been an interesting season out there.
Huh.
Especially like the peach people. I think all the peach vendors ended earlier. They all started later than expected, and they all ended earlier than expected. And Shopman Corn, they started later, and they have also ended 2 weeks earlier than they expected. So it's been not so great. All right, there is the attendance number. So the top line represents the total estimated attendance, and then the bottom line, I'm sorry, that's kind of small. We do an hourly count, and so we do a hard target head count in the market, and you can see that's broken down by each hour. One of the vendors requested this, and I think earlier in the season I sent out a link so that people could kind of watch this through a little Google form that they can see updated every week. And oddly enough, this might not be a surprise, but the dips in overall attendance correspond nicely to days that it rained.
Imagine that.
Yeah, oddly enough. So, all right. And so far we're averaging a little over 3,200 people per week. And that's almost in line for what it was last season. I think last season we averaged about 3,900 people per week once all is said and done. So the next 6 weeks have some heavy lifting to do, but we'll be all right. All right, let's see where we are. SNAP to date, we have distributed close to $18,000 in combined SNAP and SNAP double matching value. So we've gone through the Farm Credit Illinois grant, and we are working our way through the Link Up Illinois grant currently. I made the decision to run both grants simultaneously this season, just so that we might be able to get people used to the Link Up grant, which is a bigger grant, but in the past we've only run it once the farm credit runs out. So this year we ran them simultaneously, and we kind of gave people the choice of which grant they want to take advantage of. And there's a difference in that the Link Up grant is only used for fruits and vegetables, whereas the farm credit grant is for all SNAP eligible foods. So they could use that on baked items as well as other prepared things at the market. Like they could buy ground coffee and plants, and they could do that with Link Up as well. But it seemed to work really well. People, once they got used to the idea, it was really great because we would give them, if they got $20, they could get 10 in the fruits and vegetable only coupons, and then 10 for other stuff that they could use on meat or whatever. So they seemed pretty happy with that. So we'll probably continue that strategy for next year as well.
Do you know how much is left?
I did not check that number. I want to say that we have probably, let's see, there's probably about $5,000 left on the Link Up grant. But yeah, I'd have to check because I know we applied for $7,500 this season, and we had a rollover from last season, but I can't remember what that rollover amount was. I think it was about $1,800. Right. So, ongoing marketing programs. So, Art at the Market, which is sponsored by the Urbana Public Arts and Culture Program. They come out every second Saturday.
Second.
Move things around this summer. And they will be coming out this coming weekend, and for I can't remember all the words, for Welcoming Week, yes. So we'll have a musical event with the Afro-Caribbean Jazz Collective, and Wise Camp Screen Printing will be doing a print demo. Always a good draw for the market. Rachel will kind of go further into plans we have for Market at the Scare, which is kind of our end of season spectacular. We're going to kind of move that further into the market rather than just have it be on Walnut Street. So hopefully it'll drive people to other vendors at the market and see some action over there. This was another season for chef demos. I'm just going to call him Adam Wiz because I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. Adam was coordinating the chef demos for us this season, and he put together a nice little lineup of folks that came out and did demos. We can only do demos at the market currently because we do not have a kitchen that we can kind of conveniently set stuff up in for sampling, and the public health district doesn't like to give out food in open air cooking. I don't know what that's about. So the chef demos will continue. We will have the final chef demo will be on October 5th, and Jeannie Maxwell and Kenny Marquez will be returning for that to run the chef demos. And so far they've been pretty successful. All the chefs have been very happy when people come and talk to them. I think I'm going to have a discussion with the public health district and see if there's a different way we can work about the actual sampling, because I think sampling goes much further than just watching people cook stuff. But I haven't had any luck with them to date, so we'll see what happens. Read at the market. February comes out. They do a couple of things. They do like a library card recruitment. That sounds good. While they're out there, and then they do story time as well as sometimes they give away balloons and whatnot. So it's a good way for people to get information about the library. And they will be joining us in October as part of Scare at the Market. So they'll be bringing out staff and some scary stuff and be having a good time with it. Sprouts. All right, those aren't the actual sprouts. That's fine. So Sprouts at the Market is our farm linkage program where we try and introduce children ages 3 through 8 to ideas about farming and nutrition, and that has been running strong. It continues to be managed primarily by Alex Lindquist, and that runs every month. We have started canceling it if it falls on a day where it looks like it's going to rain, because nobody wants to stop and do an activity in the rain. So there may have been weekends where you haven't seen them out there when they were scheduled, then we rolled it over to the next weekend. All right, that's about that. They will also be out this weekend, and they will be doing the Sprouts Plays with Food, which will give them a chance to,
Chance of rain, you know.
Yeah, chance of rain, I know. They'll be out, it'll be fine. It's only a 30% chance of rain. Sorry, they're going to do Sprouts Learn About Soil, and they make these
They can learn about soil in the rain.
dirt cups, yeah. I don't know, because you got to
They can learn about mud in the rain.
There you go, that'll be different. All right, so, wait. All right, season outreach and marketing. Okay, so, just going to go by what's on the sheet, because I say it's down here. All right, so, we have a number of new initiatives that we've taken to task for 2019. So we created a vendor information sheet, which is just a little card we can give out at the city desk that kind of covers the cost and dates and requirements for becoming a vendor, just very briefly. So that's another way we're trying to recruit people for the market. Social media presence, including vendor spotlights, daily postings, and events. So this has become one of the main duties of Heather Ann. She has been updating the blog posts for the website and the Facebook and Twitter and Instagram accounts. So she's been going around to the market, taking pictures of vendors, kind of doing that. And now that she's back and we get her into the swing of things, she'll also be doing live updates during the market. So, you know, if we miss anything, we should let people know that, hey, they can come to the tent and ask us to come by and do a post about it that day. All right, let's see. Advertisement sponsorships. We've been sending out information about the market at neighborhood nights. Bridget Broyhan has been really great in providing us with added contacts for getting information out about the market. So we've made a little snap sheet that will tell people about the SNAP program, kind of just tells them that we match it, that they can come down and do all that stuff. And so we distribute it through the neighborhood nights, the Sweet Corn Festival, and then the kickoff weekend. Oh, jeez. All right. And so looking forward, for next year, we didn't quite have the bandwidth to get this done for this year, but we're going to do a number of marketing materials in English, Spanish, French, and Mandarin as kind of attempt to, especially for the Mandarin, to kind of capture the student market. So we will be developing those materials over the winter, and that will be for SNAP and just general market information. We've increased our social media presence. We're going to add more postings to Twitter and online community calendars and events. And then information about our SNAP program has been distributed to nonprofits that cater to lower income individuals. So we're spreading that information around. We're going to utilize some of the church groups that actually have space at the market and try and get them to distribute information about the SNAP program over the course of the winter while they're not at the market. Kind of keep that fresh in people's mind. Is that?
My buddy Hendrix there.
I know. It's the best.
Also our favorite sign.
Yes, we have new no smoking dog signs, which I finally managed to get printed and installed last week. So
How many of those do we have?
we have 10.
Are they all put out?
They were all put out
Yeah,
last
they were a
week.
hit last Saturday.
That really surprises me.
Yeah.
I counted about 6 dogs and 2
Wow.
smokers going by. So,
It's
just
always-
curious.
So this is the trick on that south side of the market. Like the soil is so compacted, I can't drive them into the ground. Like people kind of bleed in through that.
Connected to that
bushes and
tree
stuff.
or the electrical box.
Oh, that gets
And it
me.
also
Or just
doesn't
stick
apply
it
to
up.
service dogs.
Or
isn't
just
that
stick
right?
it up
Yeah.
in the bushes by there.
I was
Would be
thinking
fine.
about that, but I didn't want it to look like junk. But maybe this weekend we'll put some out there and see.
Worth a
So
try.
anyway, it's hopefully this will help. But you know, vendors can also warn people that they're not
Yeah.
supposed to have their dog at the market.
And-
Not if they got the checkbook out.
And then
I know that's the problem I have as well. Every time I go to somebody and they're at a stall, I'm like, it seems like a really bad thing to have to tell you, especially since you're probably getting ready to buy something. But so far, people have been. I mean, we don't force people out of the market, and people have been pretty cooperative. So we'll see. The signs seem to be working. There are a number of people I witnessed coming in, looking at the signs, and staying put, and then sending someone else to go and do the shopping, which is not fun, but that's what it is.
We had an intern that was very excited about telling people they're not allowed to be in the market smoking or having dogs.
Yeah.
She took it upon herself to try to keep an eye on that too. But yeah, it's definitely a joint effort because people enter from every possible vantage point at the market.
And they never see the signs. Never. All right, so then volunteer support. So next year we'll be seeking volunteers through new listings with the CU Volunteer and the university to help with programs throughout the 2020 season. And that might include maybe we'll get volunteers that can chase dogs out of the market, I don't know, or at least add a little more support to the Sprouts and the market people. And we'll see where else volunteers can kind of be utilized out at the market, because we might be able to make some use of them that we're not quite aware of just yet. So, all right, I think that wraps up my staff report.
All right, okay, so does anybody have any further questions for Brian before we move on? No? Okay, all right, so do you want to, Rachel, you want to talk about the art and culture?
Yes, maybe that mouse. Or actually, no, I probably can't. I'm going to go down there.
Okay. So thank you for letting me come and give a short presentation to you. Brian and I work really closely around all of these initiatives that come out of the arts and culture program that are at the farmers market. And during market season, it's a big part of our programming. So I'm happy to come and make sure that you all know who I am and can also give me feedback about arts programming that you see at the market, things that you'd like to see, because I'm the contact for those things. So I just have a few slides. I'll be pretty brief, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about this season and also solicit some of your ideas for next season. So again, we are formerly the Urbana Public Arts Program, but we went through a name change this past year after some visioning with our commission. And really wanted to incorporate culture when it's inextricable from art anyway, and really elevate also cultural work in our community. The farmers market is a place where we also try to bring in lots of diversity in terms of the kind of music that you see, the kind of arts practices that we have. But Art at the Market, which happens again every second Saturday of the month, we always include a concert and we include an arts workshop. So just to kind of give you a sense of some of the things that we've had this season Art at the Market has included a performance from Jinx, which was an indie band. We had John Offit Trio, a jazz band. We had the Young and the Fretless, Appalachian Mountain Music. We had Jean-René Balikidze and Bomo Yi, which is Congolese rumba and gospel music. We had are going to have the Afro-Caribbean Jazz Collective, which is coming this weekend. And then we'll have Urbana Pops Orchestra with us on Market at the Scare, because they do spooky sounds at the farmers market. And that again is like teachers and students. So that's but really the only Urbana Pops is really the representation that we have of student musicians that's there. And I'm talking about K through 12. As far as different kinds of arts and crafts or demo-like activities that people could participate in this season, that included Sierra Murphy, who does natural art, so she did some recyclable art pieces. We had Michael Moxie teaching juggling, and he's a flow artist that used to own Hybrid Arts, which was in Lincoln Square. We also had corn crafts organized as part of Sweet Corn Festival. We are this weekend having Wise Camp screen printing, and we're also having one of our grantees. So you may be familiar with this, but the Arts and Culture Program does give out $80,000 in grant awards annually, and oftentimes our grantees are some of the people that we look to do programming at our existing programs, and that includes Urbana's Market at the Square. So we'll also be having something called Mobile Art Cart come out. This is a project that was funded through the Arts and Culture Commission. Mobile Art Cart is it's still a bit in its fabrication, so I'm not sure if it'll be in its full glory, but the artist is building actually a cart that will have screen printing capabilities. Lots of art and supplies kind of come off of it, but it's attached to a bicycle. And so that person will be out as well. Both of the arts making projects are really celebrating immigration. This is, as Brian indicated, Welcoming Week. You may be familiar with the city of Urbana being a sanctuary city. The city of Urbana participates on the Welcoming Week committee, and this is a county-wide, but it's also connected to a national week of events exploring issues related to immigration, but also celebrating immigrants in our local community. So I think, like many of you may be familiar with the butterfly being a symbol of migration, even in immigration conversations nationally. So they'll be doing some butterfly making craft activities related to screen printing and some paper crafts, and that will be together with the Afro-Caribbean Jazz Collective performing. I did bring along with me, but I didn't bring them down this way. Maybe you can pass them around. We have some Welcoming Week does produce a calendar of events. And Urbana's Market at the Square is one of the events that people can come out and witness. So you may have chosen pick whichever one you'd like, but there are 3 different languages available. So hopefully you picked a language you can read.
No, I didn't.
But if you open them up, either way, I actually brought them because I wanted you to see that they come in multiple languages for this program. But you can see that the Market at the Square is listed there, Art at the Market. So this too, we hope will introduce more and more people to the farmers market. Not to mention, so this has been distributed all over the county. And then we've also seen the market be advertised at any of the Welcoming Week events. So that we've had a City of Urbana presence at, it's also advertised the market. And that has a big reach as well. So we were excited to mention that today because that's an initiative that this week's programming is impacted by. But in general, we had a really robust season. I came to you last season and talked with you, and I was bemoaning the fact that weather had really been rough last season, and I know that it was rough overall. We had a lot of rain. This season, at least on second Saturdays, we did not have any rain. So I feel, and I know there's another Saturday or 2 to go, so hopefully I didn't just jinx it, but we've had a really, really wonderful season in terms of not having to cut concerts short. We really aim to be there with you. We know this is a rain or shine market, and so we intend for Art at the Market to be rain or shine as well. Of course, that we can always stay there, our staff, and make sure that we're doing all of the kids' programs that we do. But in terms of musicians, they have to take care of their instruments and everything. So they haven't always been able to play through the rain, and it really did cut some of our concerts short or cancel them last season. So this season's been pretty good to us. Here you see some of the pictures of this past couple weeks. That brings me to Market at the Scare. So this again is on Saturday, October 26th from 8 to noon. Market at the Scare traditionally has been a program put on by both the Farmers Market and our program, the Arts and Culture program. And similar to every other Art at the Market weekend, I'll just point out that the 26th is not, of course, the second Saturday. We actually hold off on our second Saturday in October to ensure that we can put it on your last market date of the season to really kind of go out with a bang. And what we do for that is, of course, it's a fall harvest. It's also a Halloween sort of themed farmers market. As a reminder to all of you, and hopefully you can help me remind other vendors, it is a time to dress up if you dare. Dress up if you dare in your Halloween costume. We actually are asking that every vendor, similar as we ask all of our downtown businesses on that date, that if they are willing to bring candy, that we invite kids to trick or treat at our farmers market at the same time they're trick or treating for the downtown trick or treat in Urbana. So I will be sending out an email reminder, but it would be absolutely wonderful if you can commit to that. And if you can't commit to it, or perhaps the purchase of candy is a barrier, talk to me. We may not have it in our budget to provide candy to everyone, but I certainly want to help provide candy to vendors that are willing to have it and be able to give it out to costumed children and trick-or-treaters that come by your booth. We talked last season internally about evaluating the way that Market at the Scare went last year. And one of the things that came up is that we really wanted to spread the crowd around in the market and perhaps encourage that some of the activities take place in the market, because what we had was all of the activities out on Walnut Street. And just to give you a picture again, hopefully you saw it, but we have again, and some of these things are listed here. Urbana Pops provides a concert. This year, Idea Store is our kind of highlighted artist group, and they're going to be doing a kind of train table of machines and things that you can use to make spooky sounds. So there's going to be kind of like a spooky sound library where you can like build your own spooky sounds. There's going to be a pop-up photo booth. We've got ghost stories at the market. We usually have a face painter, and then we've had in the past, and I'll show you some pictures from last year, we had people cosplaying. So we had the Star Wars Club of the University of Illinois. We had something called Spread the Magic from ISU come up from out of town, and they are dressed up as Disney princesses and like Marvel characters and just cosplay with the kids and give them some people to meet. We had crafts, we had puppet shows, we had all kinds of different things going on, and that really ran down Walnut Street. And what we saw, of course, was that people, of course, were going into the market, but we wanted to see that whole crowd, especially parents as they're waiting for their kid's face to be face painted or this, that, or the other to happen, that they could kind of shop around. And it was kind of condensed onto Walnut Street. So this is another piece that I really want to get your input on, because we are hoping to move at least some of these activities into the interior of the market to really encourage that crowd to move around. I would wager that being able to say that there is trick-or-treating at every vendor booth will help aid in that too, so they don't feel like separate things. So I really think that that's an opportunity for us to collaborate if you're so willing. The things that, to me, make the most sense to move to the interior of the market are less of the booth type things, but more of the activities. So we do things like a pumpkin ring toss. We set up a kind of an obstacle course with white yarn and like black spiders on it so they could like go through a spider web. Things like that, I can kind of easily find a little corner of the market to put them in so that they don't take up too much space. And we'll, of course, be thinking about lines and like how that will work and function for the booths, and making sure that it's, of course, adding to the market and not in any way impeding your ability to sell and to be there talking with your patrons. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that and get your feedback, because we encourage, of course, you to dress up. We'd love to see if you're willing to bring candy, and I'd love to hear a little bit from the folks in the room, like, I think I could do that, or I wouldn't be able to do that unless you provided me candy. And I'd also love to hear your ideas and suggestions for where you would like to see some of these activities pop up in the market. So any input? Don't be shy. Did any of you recall seeing it last year?
Pardon?
You recall it last year.
My customers would kill me if I give their kids candy.
Oh, they would.
It's not healthy. I didn't know you laughed, but it's true.
Well, you could find a very healthy candy, I'm sure.
Well,
Pencils, non-food.
You could be the
Stickers?
person who gives out pennies on Halloween. that also occurs, right? Well, I'm open to, and if it makes sense that we don't participate because of this, that, or the other, that's fine. What is challenging for us, even with the downtown trick or treat, which is organized with UVA, is when like some participate and some don't. We have to create a method by which we know who can ask for candy. And so because not everybody feels bold enough to be like, do you have candy? To make it kind of obvious for them, whether that's like making sure the bowls are really obvious or that sort of thing.
as far as setting up in the market,
Yeah.
if you create congestion, that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
No, because sometimes some of the musicians will do that, and it blocks customers from getting in, and that's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what she was thinking, where that would be, but there's empty spots now to market, but still, there's vendors all over that don't want their tables blocked.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So are you suggesting kind of looking at those empty spots first and foremost?
No, I even in an empty spot, I mean, I don't know how many people you're talking about, but if you create a congestion, that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they all may be mesmerized by what you're doing, but if they're blocking my table, we're going to have issues.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, because I'm there to make money.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is. So.
Right, and we always want these programs to be value added. Like we want them to help facilitate more and more people coming to the market and spending money while they're there. Other feedback or
I
ideas?
suppose, since this is going to be the last market, there will be some big holes. So I would just check with Brian that week to see where there's big spaces and then just stick them there.
Yeah, that's the plan. We haven't quite done it yet because oddly enough, people are still signing up for that market. They apparently think it's going to be nice and warm. So
Really?
Really?
I don't get it. People are swapping their dates at the beginning of October.
I mean, it is like
Us
90
too.
degrees out right now.
So,
Hope they're right. My crops
I-
need some more warm weather.
I hope so too. Yeah.
Huh? Wow.
So we'll do an analysis in another week or so, and then we'll have a better idea of what's going on at that point with open spaces in the market. We'll be able to put some stuff, some places will make more sense once we see it.
What about like something like this little piece of paper that says trick or treat,
Mhm.
and you put it up by your tent, and then kids could know that that's a tent that you could trick or treat at.
Yeah.
Because we've had kids,
Sure.
and we forgot one year, and we're like, kids are coming up, and
Yeah.
we're like, we don't have anything, and we felt really bad because so maybe you
Sure.
could do something that kids would know.
Yeah, I think
This
we
is
can do
a place
that.
that you can go, and then if the people that don't want to participate, those kids know not to go to that vendor.
It's like
For
turning your
sure.
light on in your porch.
I know.
Right, yeah, something
Yeah, and
like that.
so for every one of these booths, I actually made a little booth sign. You can see it up here actually. So this one says
Oh,
play
okay.
with puppets, and it says, it's too small for you to see, but it says market at the scare, play with puppets. I could create something that
Yeah,
kind of
something.
is like this, and they're laminated, and you can put them out. So that's definitely doable. And how you guys find that vendors communicate easily, do you think that it would be best to have an email just from me with a link for you to add your name that says that you're planning to bring candy?
I think
Yeah, or I send out a weekly,
Mm-hmm.
so we can put the link in that,
Okay.
rather than have it be a whole new introduction.
You think you'll see it if it's there?
Everybody gets right. Everybody gets
No,
right
let me
promptly
ask
back with you too, don't
People-
they?
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, if
Can't always seize my
Yeah.
emails though. Usually.
When they're sent.
Yeah. They're always sent. Sometimes they're going wrong with emails.
That's true. I don't get everyone either.
Anyway, what?
but
Yeah, that's true.
So one thing I can do is we could also try both. We could put it in the typical email that you're used to getting, and then if you're not feeling that people would be super mad about getting a second email, I can send an email that's just like, reminder, it's our last market, dress up in a costume, bring candy, here's the place to tell me if you are. And then we'll also try our best to bring some extra candy in case it could be helpful. Again, I don't think I could provide it for every single vendor, but I could definitely probably provide it for a few. And we'll look and be thoughtful about what kinds of activities are put in the interior. even if I go off last year, I have a sense of what things formed lines and what really didn't. So hopefully that can help that situation. And again, like I'm here for your feedback. I wanted to put things in the interior of the market because in my observation, there were some families that I'm not sure went into the market but may have just hung out on Walnut Street. And I want them going to the market and shopping, right? And so I'm not sure if that's true. It's hard for me to assess with a crowd like that. But you know, that's important for us. And during Art at the Market, we really keep things to Walnut Street, but we're really around the entrance. So we're kind of catching people as they're walking into the market, so to speak. I know the market has like 4, 5, 7, 10 entrances, but it's one of them. But in general, I'd love to ask if you have any ideas, suggestions, wants, desires about how Art at the Market is programmed. I brought copies of my card, and I want you to be able to walk away with that to send me any of your ideas. If you're like, I have a musician friend or a band I'd really like to see, or I have a craft that I think would be wonderful. You know, we also tend to do things that are farmers market themed, so we'll have, you know, veggie crafts and stamping, potato printing, and things like that on occasion. But ideas that you have, we'd love to hear. I also wanted to just point out to you that you may have noticed this past season we did do away with the attempt to have a stage out at the market. That was purely because it seemed to be more trouble than it was worth. It had to be taken down really, really quickly for you guys to get in and out right when you wanted to, when the market ends. And for us, it was very cumbersome to put it up and expensive. So we went back to being under the tent. It's worked just fine. And we have used amplification, and I have checked with especially the people down the first row. It's always been a positive, sounds fine. Please always come to me if for some reason it doesn't sound fine or you feel like it's gotten too loud or something like that. I really try to keep it noise to a minimum, but we want it to be able to really add to the market atmosphere and distinguish it from buskers, because this is the part that's curated by our program, and it is the concert that's available at the market, and it is distinguished from the people that are busking in the interior of the market in different spots. All right. Thank you. So just know that my door is open, my ears are open, and I'm happy to hear from you if you have ideas or suggestions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Oh, I wanted to point one more thing out, sorry. And that is that Brian mentioned that we'll do some things in other languages. My program's been trying to do that too. And one of the things that that we did recently was we met with, this past few months, we met with some of the folks who write articles for a page that we have on a platform called WeChat. If you haven't heard of it before, it wouldn't surprise me, but WeChat is actually a platform arguably almost as larger than Facebook. It's just common in the Asian continent, particularly in China.
Yep.
And we have a group here locally that write articles primarily about Champaign-Urbana for WeChat. And we met with that group, and one of the things they were showing me in terms of articles they've written in the past was a really fantastic article about Market at the Square. And it featured beautiful pictures of booths and talked about different vendors. So they're producing lots of content. We're trying to work with them on different opportunities to produce content. We did a feature, for instance, with my program on the Downtown Get Down. They've covered Sweet Corn Festival, but the market was another thing that they've covered. So I just wanted you to know that's something that was covered, I think, this past season. And it really tries to reach out to lots of students on campus in particular that use that platform, and international families locally that use it. But
Okay. Any other questions for staff before we move on? All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the 2020 Market Patron Survey. This is very early stages. And really up for, I feel like, so I'll give you a little bit of background. I actually do survey research for my job. So this is kind of my area. And I like to start off whenever I ask people about doing a survey, what are your goals? So I was hoping to have a conversation with the advisory committee in terms of what should be the goals in terms of getting feedback from patrons next year. So I think the idea is that it would be implemented right at the beginning in the the beginning of the season. And so just kind of to start us off, I pulled up is it a resolution or an ordinance? The ordinance in terms of the purpose of this group, and I kind of just wanted to read to you the roles and responsibilities of the board to kind of help us think about what would be important for us to learn about from the patrons. So the first item is to consider future growth of the market consistent with its mission. The second one is to research and seek additional funding. The third is to encourage public participation in the market. The fourth is to cooperate with other entities on matters regarding the market. The fifth is to offer educational programming. The sixth is to coordinate events and outreach related to the market. The seventh is to implement Urbana's Market at the Square's strategic plan. And the eighth is anything else that the mayor and the city council task the committee to do. So I think that some of these are pretty obvious in terms of things that perhaps we could get feedback from on the patrons, and some of them are not. And I'm wondering if anybody has kind of some thoughts on those 8 things that I talked about in terms of getting feedback.
Well, if you look at the 2013 one, it's all over the board. You know, when you ask them what they want, it's all about the question, and to ask it the right way. And when you start asking them, what do you want? Well, you got this blue sky everywhere. I was like, really? I was reading, not while I was driving on the way up, but I was reading some of the responses, like, gee, Manelli. And I forgot, because I remember now, but it's like, really? And we deal with this as a business owner. A lot of people say, well, I'd sure like to have this, and I'd sure like to have that, and we can design that, cut a meter, that product, and they never come by and buy it. So, do they really want, so you gotta really weed through this stuff when they say they want this and they say they want that. My response to was this one was that, the vendors will grow what will sell. I'm talking producer. I can't speak for, value added, whatever, but even it's kind of the same way. You can make all this stuff, but they don't buy it. They don't want it. I mean, it's just the way it is. So, I know this is your thing on doing surveys and all this, but I'm real skeptical of them. I mean, just because of the information you gather. But I think there's some good questions that could be asked, on doing this, because I'd like to hear the input. But some, it'd be, I'd like to see the questions that you're going to design them on, or if this is what you're going to. Is this?
No.
That's
That's just past.
Okay,
That has
okay.
nothing to do
Gotcha.
with future. It's just an example.
That was done. That is not what we.
Okay, gotcha.
So I think that the 3 things that come to mind for me are, first, you're absolutely right. If you ask people just generic question, a big broad question, they're going to come up with lots and lots of things,
And you just
right?
your head.
Okay, so there's 2 ways to attack that. The first way is to start off with that question that just kind of get them thinking, like, what would you like to see at the farmer's market? And then the second question would be a follow-up on key things that you think are actionable. Like, how important would it be to increase having sprouts twice a month instead of, and then you could ask them a range of, that would be more of what we call a close-ended question.
Right.
So you could have something that you could actually do.
Right.
But that gives them both the opportunities, A, to just kind of say what's on their mind. Maybe it's useful, maybe it's not useful. But B, if you really want to drill down into it, you can give them some options that we think could be implemented within a year, within a season, within a couple of years. So one of the things that I hear about a lot are shade, right? People want an area to sit down, and certainly we've added space for people to eat, but a nice area for shade that people can sit and relax and so forth is something that I hear a lot about. That could just be one example. That is something that is actionable. If we had money to do and we had space and the appropriate resources, that could be something that could be done at the market. So I guess my suggestion would be, and then there's one other thing, which is we do have these other survey results. So we could mine that information. We could read through all of that and see what are the consistent themes.
Right.
And maybe that's something we should ask specifically about.
Right. That's
Like,
what I
how
was-
important is this to you if we do blah, whatever. So those would just be some of the things that I think we should think about.
That would be my suggestion too. I mean, reading through all the open-ended, there are a lot of common people saying the same thing. So if you ask specific questions about those common,
Don't change a thing, most of
Topics.
no, just joking.
yeah. So longer hours was one of them. More seating, policy enforcement, which it sounds like that's happening. Social media stuff, which it sounds like that's happening. But those were some common things that came out of the open-ended questions. But yeah.
But to kind of go back when you started, when you give the role of the advisory committee, and you know I've read that
Yeah.
numerous times.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been reminded every meeting we have no power. So, well, no, you laugh, but it's hard to get excited about something when at the end of the day look, you have no power.
Well,
So, yeah.
can I, so let me stop you for 1 second. When you say you have no power, you have the ability to make recommendations to the city council. Now, if you're talking about power in terms of things that can be changed at the market, that's a different story. But all of our commissions and all of our boards have the exact same thing. The Zoning Board of Administration is coming up right now. They have the power to recommend something to city council. They do not have the power to enforce it. So it's the same avenue. And so if it is the common consensus of the board that this is the direction that we would suggest to city council, then absolutely that's what should be suggested and presented to city council. So that's your power as an advisory board. But if you're talking about these are the changes that we're going to be doing at the market, that actually is not within our purview.
Well,
which is
I mean,
what-
well, I know, but just, I mean, I don't want to kick sand in the wound or salt in the wound, but just the last Walnut Street thing, that just got thrown out, you know, and there wasn't too many people who knew about that, you know, so, I guess more, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I know what you're saying, and I get it.
Okay, all right.
I get it.
But-
But you need to consult with the people that it affects too, before you make policy or try to make policy or whatever. You know, the vendors that are actually involved in what goes on, you know.
Sure.
Or the, ask the advisory council, you know, that represent those folks. Because that's supposed to be our job, you know. So I don't get phone calls in the middle of the night saying, so, you know, I didn't know nothing about it.
So I guess my point is, if the goal is an advisory commission is to present some items for city council to consider, whether it's request for resources to do X, Y, and Z, whether it's to expand a program or to expand something else, I feel like this advisory committee could make a list of things saying, we think these are the 10 things or the 5 things or whatever that happens to be that the farmers market should work on.
We were supposed to have one in January and it never happened.
Have what in
A
January?
meeting where we sit down and envisioning and where we want the market to go and all that. You know, I've been asking every year to have that. We sit down in a room, just talk, you know.
So the goals. So is that
So where we
something-
want to go and invite key vendors to that meeting besides us, because there's, for lack of better words, just some vendors know more about what's going on than others, you know. And so we could sit down and have a visioning on where we think we need to go. Not that anything would ever happen, whether it be done, but we have maybe a, because that's how this whole strategic plan thing started back in whenever day it was, I don't know. Because I was on the steering committee, John Chernus, me, and you know, and that's how this whole thing started. You know, and then we met, I don't know how many times, and kind of got it going down the path, but then it kind of went nowhere, you know, now. So who knows? Because I don't
So
think we
it's-
have a strategic plan no more.
So is that something that other board members are interested in, is having a visioning session where we invite different people?
But not selected people, because there again you can get like this survey. You get 1,000 different answers, you know, and you just the right people. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but
So let me say this. There's 2 things. The first one is that you have different constituencies. You have the growers, you have the non-for-profits,
Right,
you
and
have
one
the
from
value
everyone. No,
added,
that's what I mean.
Right, and I think that in terms of a visioning exercise or a feedback exercise, right, one of the 2, you have to open up to anybody
no,
to have the ability,
well-
and I think it's the role of the advisory committee to then pull that information together. and say, okay, we're going to focus on this. Your other constituency are the actual people who are attending the market. And that's kind of like where the whole survey
That's where the
stuff-
survey would
That's
go.
where the survey would come in.
Right,
So
right.
you have those two components: the people who provide the services at the farmers market, and you have the people who consume the products at the farmers market.
Right, I get that.
So I hear you, and I think that it's an interesting idea that we can pull together different groups of those two groups of people, and maybe that can inform the survey, right? That kind of visioning exercise or that feedback from the market exercise, and then we can move forward with what do the consumers think about that information. So that's my 2 cents. I've talked a lot.
Well, no, and
What
I
is
get it because, I mean, we're still, I get on new business, we still like two representatives, because I would like to see somebody from every group. We don't have a food truck person.
Right.
And Shay's quit now, so
Right.
resigned. So, we got some gaps. Because the food trucks, what was the number, 12, 13, whatever, I didn't do the math on percentage, but that's almost half of the producers or food trucks. Why ain't they sitting at the table? And I was going to bring it up in new business, but why ain't they here? Why ain't somebody here from that? Because that's the big,
So perhaps the staff can talk to I know that you guys have reached out to different people to join. Where does that stand right
I
now?
think right now, don't know all the technical terms, the proposal for a new member for the advisory board is going to council soon. I believe Brandon's kind of got that written up, and we're gonna, once that's approved, then we've got a kind of like a list of people that we're gonna talk to for that. So we're just kind of waiting for that approval to happen.
Is the process the same? So on the other boards and commissions, people apply, and then the mayor reviews the applications, and then the mayor
Yeah,
recommends
but I
it?
think don't we need to have like an amendment to the ordinance first, because it will be a new.
I see.
for
You're
that, but
talking-
not for Shay's
that-
position.
It's
Yeah,
the
no.
composition
You're talking
question.
composition
Because
question
I know
has
some
to
people
be-
that's applied for
You
Shay's.
have a tentative replacement for Shay's
Okay.
position, so that's, Lonnie Oberg will be replacing Shay,
Okay, good.
so. But I don't know if that hasn't been made official yet by the mayor.
It hasn't
yet,
come to
so,
council yet.
But
No.
it's pending, so, yeah.
Good.
So, okay, so
But it
the,
is the same process. I think, to Brian's point, it's that question of composition, and the bylaws have a certain set of composition, and that would need to be
It
updated.
just seems like though, this was brought up like 3 years ago,
the food,
about a
Food
food
truck.
truck vendor on the board. And it just, kind of just lays there.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to,
You've only been here too, so
'Cause we had-
I can't blame you on the third
Because-
day.
because we've had-
Long ago, but.
food vendors give their little spiel
gotcha.
on the importance of food trucks.
Because I don't know nothing about their business.
Okay, all
You
right.
know.
And it just,
I'm a
it just
farmer.
seemed like the ball
you know.
kind of got.
No, I mean, I'm serious. I can tell you a lot about what I do, but I don't know about, and so they have different needs and requirements and concerns that need to be heard, so.
All right, so we have visioning, we have a survey, and we have the inclusion or the change in the ordinance to
But I think you need to
include the
spend a lot of
food
time
truck.
on the questions you ask for the survey.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what this group is for, because I'm hoping, what my hope is that we come up with kind of a common core of these are the types of questions that we want to ask, and we develop those questions, and we give it to the advisory board for them to look at and see if it's covered, and then we move forward. I mean, Brian, you can speak to a little bit maybe about the development. I'm not saying I'm going to develop the survey.
No, but you'd have,
Just
you
saying I
know
know.
what works and what don't work, if that's what you do.
That is what I do.
So, yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I don't want you telling me how to farm, and I ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying? No, I mean, we do what we do.
I'm not going to tell you how to farm.
No, so that's what I'm trying to say,
Okay, all right.
I mean,
Fair enough.
we are seeking input from the board. Also, at the end of season vendor meeting, I want to put the idea that we want to do the study out to all the vendors so that every vendor from every segment can kind of be like, oh, hey, I want to, I'd be interested in knowing this. And then kind of hopefully collect that all together and then refine the questions again, bring them back to the advisory board, and then be able to like implement this in, I don't know, maybe beginning of May is a little bit early, but probably like May, June, so that like the market's up and running and we've got a good number of attendees that we can access there. That's big.
Okay. All right, that's the goal. So does anybody have any input in terms of what they think the goal of the customer survey should be? Like what are some of the key things that we should hit on?
what's best for the market in the next 10 years. I mean, because we're in a declining market.
Right.
And not just us, just the United States. So what proactive can we do? What proactive measure can we do to at least stop that? Or
So you want to increase attendance, or you want to increase people's amount that they're spending, or both?
it's
Both.
bodies. Well,
The bodies.
the number's up to me.
If you have the bodies,
If
then
they,
you'll
yeah,
have
if,
the money.
as far as them spending money, that's up to me. That's my job, to make them spend more money.
So
Just to
you
get
need
them
the
there.
numbers. Is
Right,
to
the
get them there.
numbers.
So here's the issue with doing a survey at the market. You already have those people. there.
Exactly.
You don't have the people who are outside of the market.
Well, you
and
got
why they're
social
not
media
coming.
and that too, so I mean, there's thousands of ways to reach out to people if you really want to get them.
Right,
But
right.
I think the main goal is, for me anyway, I'm greedy, selfish American here, I want to make more money, so give me more customers. You know, yeah, just leave
Well,
it
there's a lot
at
of
that.
people in Champaign, Urbana, Savoy, I mean, this whole area that don't come to their market. And they're like, oh, there's a market in Urbana on Saturday mornings? I'm like, where do you guys live?
Well, now-
You know, you just kind of go, where do you live? Yeah, but,
And our audience has changed too,
exactly.
Diane, you know, I mean,
Yes.
you know, the low-hanging fruit are already there. Some are passing away, some are moving on, but that I don't know what group you call them, but that out of college to 30-somethings, whatever their name is, they're not shopping the market. They're just not. You know, they're busy, they got other schedules. You know, our business is catering to that person, but the market is not.
Right.
You know, and how
It's
do you?
more of a market study, right? So a market study would be how do you reach the folks that you're not
I don't
reaching?
know. I mean, we could brainstorm
I don't want to
about
speak
it.
out of turn, but one thought too is like, you have to go to those populations, you know, and it could be like surveying the young professionals groups in the area. If you're talking about like, you know, people who are like double income, no kids, the DINK population, we like, you know, that might be somebody that you can reach through specific, you know, targeted survey distribution.
Or the schools.
Mm-hmm.
Get them out through the schools.
No, what schools?
The elementary and the...
They don't buy.
The elementary parents?
Kids don't buy. Oh, parents maybe, but
Yeah, it's parents.
The parents are what open those folders and take out that stuff. It's not kids.
okay, I was thinking the kids.
No, I don't think the kindergartens aren't going to come out and
Yeah,
spend a lot of
no.
money. No. Okay, so certainly having the goal of with the ultimate goal is what's best for the market, but I think that's kind of redundant, right? That's the whole purpose of the market. But how do we increase the customer base? What other goals should we have for the survey?
Well, weather's a common theme, and that was one of my questions later on, new business too. Where are we at on the year-round facility? I mean, on that conversation, you know, it got all hot and heavy last winter, but it's kind of died off. And I mean, you know, I just curious where it's at, because you've seen wherever that graph was.
Yeah.
You know, that's my pocketbook right
Yeah.
there.
Brent
And
and
that's-
I had an informal conversation about this, and it seems that some of that has been put on the back burner pending the facility study being completed for the city. So, like, part of that has been in place now that the hotel has been sold, and hopefully that development project will go forward without a hitch. And then once the facilities project is finished, once that assessment is done, then we'll probably have more space to discuss like a all season.
Because in that 2013 survey, I don't know what the exact number was, but the reason you come to Urbana was 94% was the market.
Yes.
So, you know, what do I know? But I think maybe they're coming down for the market. You know, so, you see what I'm saying? So I know it's not high
So-
priority, but yet it needs to be up there a little higher. And I know politics, and I know how that works. I've been around a long time, so I get it. But you know, because a lot of answers in here was the weather too, and I mean that's an obvious one. You know, what would that look like? And it might get people more excited, you know, if it's a little bit different, or you know, everybody's always wanting something different, and you know, add a little zing to the market, or you know, something. I don't know, more seating or whatever. So, but as far as your survey, I kind of got off track, sorry.
So, that could be a question perhaps, if you have those, kind of how important would a year-round facility be to your ability to.
But I hate asking those questions when we can't do nothing about it.
No, but it's evidence to take to council in terms of
Sets priorities.
resources.
All
So
right.
it sets priorities. So if you can show that 95% of the people are behind having a year-round facility, that gives more weight instead of the advisory committee going, we need a year-round facility, right? Because now you have numbers and the people who use the farmers market saying this is important to us. So Kent, Valerie, Diane, any other items that you think are important to cover in a consumer survey?
Can't think of something off my mind, but I'm sure I'll probably think of it when I leave.
What do you think of the idea of having kind of mining the data from the previous one to find those common themes, asking kind of the open-ended question,
Yeah.
and then giving them, here are some options, how important are these to you? What do you think about that kind of simplistic way of?
I think that's a good starting point, is going through,
Right.
like we've got 10 answers that want longer hours.
Mhm.
So that would definitely have to be one.
Mhm.
And then just kind of throw out the ones that are really,
Because you got to start with something. You can't beat it up until it's on the table. Then well, no, I mean,
You're right, you're absolutely right.
You know,
but-
give us, and I kind of thought I
Okay, so-
requested that too at the January meeting. Give us something to go on, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, and
So-
then start narrowing it down and getting specific on.
Because that's how you get
Why-
your best
certain
ideas.
things and-
Well, and Mary, also, in my experience too, I would assume that we do like some level of ranking that are required questions, and then things that are like narrative wouldn't be maybe not required questions that would elaborate upon your things that you do more quantitatively.
Yeah, ranking is a good
That's what we
idea.
do
I
with
don't
some of our
usually
program
recommend
evaluation stuff.
required questions, because if
Yeah.
they don't want to give you answers, they'll just make them up.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, we've used it with maybe less of a less gravity as much as a consumer survey. I do surveys for my programs and events, so like we just put together one for the Downtown Get Down and decided that's jointly with the Park District, UBA, and us, and we decided we were going to keep certain things required because we definitely, like, it's useless to have just a couple answers. Like if the person's going to commit to doing this survey, we want some level of completeness. But then anything that required a little bit more elaboration or effort, usually narrative, short answer, or things like that, were not required. I don't know. That might be a way to think about it.
So perhaps, Brian, you and I can just draft up something, send it out to the advisory committee, and you guys can beat it up?
Right.
Yep.
And does that sound
Yeah.
okay?
That's-
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Do you need to have different versions for like our customers that are already coming versus people that aren't?
Yeah, actually, I was just writing a note-
If you do come, you're going to get these questions. If no, you get a different set of questions if it's electronic, or I don't know what.
I don't know who made the suggestion, but I like the idea of going into these, was it you that said the groups, the professional groups or whatever, and getting their thoughts that aren't, we know they're not coming to market. Why is that? You know, I mean, I
Right.
don't know.
And there's a number of professional groups that could just receive a survey link with the request that they send it out to their members to fill
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
And
So
maybe 'cause
Downtown
they're
Get
eating
Down
out,
has a similar
yeah.
question. We asked, like, did you participate or did you come? If the answer is no, it just opens up one other question, which says, like, about motivations for, like, it basically invites them to say, like, what would motivate them to come. There's a ranking version of that question, and then there's, like, a narrative version of that question, and they can pick either one. So it was like, if it was the wrong day and time, and like, I'm never available on Saturdays. Like,
Because
if
your
that's
school
the
parents
answer.
do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because
So-
some things we can solve, but some things you're just never going to solve, you know? They just can't come because they're never coming out to a farmer's market, right?
Yeah, I think communication between our every 3-month meetings is fine too. Like I never hear anything. There's never any discussion about anything. I know there has like some things have to be done with a quorum present and all of that, but
So the Open Meetings Act says that no more than 2 people can be in a conversation without it being declared a meeting. It has to be advertised and so forth. So I think, I'll say on council, this is a challenge because we need information, and we'll get sent information, and there'll be a big bold thing that says, do not reply to all. So if you think that there is the necessity to call kind of a working meeting, there's a better word for that. I can't remember.
And there's been discussion about that in the
study
past, but
session.
it never.
If it would be good to have a study session, we can certainly do that, especially if we're working on, if we just want to work on a survey, and that's the study session. We can do it in between the 4 kind of required meetings. So we'll draft up something, we'll send it out to the group, and Brian, perhaps you can poll people at that time and say, do we want to have a study session before December?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, all right, good deal.
Did you want to mention that our meeting this morning? So we talked about like the quarterly meetings with Heather Ann and Brian, and we were talking about that your next meeting is likely December, and doing maybe some of that strategic visioning during that December meeting that you were talking about.
We need to have
Share
some
vision.
homework done before then, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
show
it
up.
sounds like you'll have some other stuff.
Right,
being
don't
done
just show
before
up
that.
and
Okay, all right. So anything else before we move on to the last item on the agenda? No? Stan, I think this one's yours. the
you give me
vendor
another time
product
again.
selection.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. The last few years, or however many years, I don't know, I see more and more vendors offering more and more products. So instead of just doing vegetables, they may do crafts, they may do this, they may do flowers, so they're widening their thing, and I get it, we're all trying to make more money at the market in a shrinking market, but anyway, just tell you a quick story about our business. When we started, we did vegetables. Our meats is our core thing, but we did vegetables and everything. As I got to know my competition and my vendors, because you may ask why that's important, it's like, I'm cutting into their sales. And my secondary or third or fourth enterprise, I can do cheaper because all my overhead's on my meats. So I can come in and grow tomatoes, and I won't mention his name, but he would just kick my butt because I was always beating him on price. Because I don't have to have as much money, Or if I go out and like to shop in sweet corn, I didn't sell as much as them, but when I sold some, I ate into their profits. So now we just do meats. I don't do anything else. So, and I just think when vendors do that, they're cutting into some of the other vendors. That's their main business. And I'm just asking for your opinion. You may think, whatever. But you've got your anchor vendors that's their core business. When somebody else is cutting into it, when they've got their own core business too, it kind of hurts the other vendors. And I was thinking on the way up here, it kind of also for new vendors coming in, say somebody wants to come in and grow something, but if everybody out there is already doing it, they ain't gonna have a chance anyway. I do we do a market, and I know some other markets that they regulate what comes into that market. I mean, like, you got so many peach growers, you got so many this, you got so many that, because that's all that market will hold. And this is something I've brought up before, but I just see it more and more happening here the last couple of years. That I'll go around, I don't know what's this there. I can, they're growing more stuff. So I just want to throw it out there. Any comments or what my thoughts would be is, and we've brought this up, is at the end of the year do a market, I forget what I called it, but you go through, and the advisory council in an advisory role looks at the vendors that they had the previous year and go over that and say, well, we got enough of this, we got enough of this, we got enough of this. Because I know one market that my son does, and it's a smaller market, they ain't letting no more vegetable people in. They just ain't, because they don't need any more. So they got a waiting list. So, they manage it, and I think, and that's part of, I think, what we need to look at in our visioning. Years ago, when it was all good, you just let anybody in, and things was all good, because you had the people, the customer base, to absorb it. We don't have that no more. When you oversaturate the market, you're cutting in to people's sales. We got to, I think, manage it a little bit tighter, and that puts more on you, but on what comes in and what don't. I know we're in a free society, but a market is really not a free society. We have to operate within them 4 walls. What comes into us. Now, what I do outside my sales, I'll go up against anybody. But what comes into them 4 walls, if you only bring me in 3,000 people or whatever the number is, that's all I've got to sell to. at that particular market. So, and if you've got 5 meat vendors, and that's why I want a food truck person here. I think we've got too many food trucks, personally. Well, we had 12 food, or what did we have last week? 7. 7 food trucks. Ain't nobody made no money. So how long, and so, you know, okay, the strong survive, but how long does that work? You know, it's just, and they're all good. Only one buys from the farmers, and I know how to solve the problem. Only one buys from the farmers, the rest don't. So, but that's why I like to have a food truck person sitting here, because I think they need to be required to buy from the market. Then their dollars that people are buying food don't affect me as much because they're buying from me too. You know, the Piato's the only one.
So you brought up 2 things.
I know.
The first thing that
I'm
you
sorry.
brought, that's okay. I just want to
But it's all
clarify
intertwined.
here.
It's all intertwined.
Okay, so the first thing that you brought up was limiting the type of products that people can sell, is what I heard. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You need to prioritize them. I come in, I say I'm doing meats. I come in, I do meats. If I come in and I start selling produce, I can't sell produce.
And the second piece
Yeah,
that
but
you
that's-
talked about was basically a quota in terms of the number of people who would
Well,
be
it's the
allowed in the
same as-
market for selling X, Y, or Z. Those are the 2 things I heard from you, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Quota.
So if you say we should only have 20 people who sell vegetables here, we should only have 3 people who sell sweet corn.
What we think the market can bear.
Right, but that's right. That's
Right.
like the maximum number
Right.
of people to sell.
And
these
obviously
types
you
of
don't want to sell
products.
yourself short, but you don't say, if you got X amount of vendors doing this, you don't need any more, then this vegetable grower can't grow this over here because you don't need this over here.
So I'm curious what other people think about those 2 different
That's why I brought it
concepts.
up.
Because like up in Chicago and other markets,
Sorry.
you're limited to 5 people selling sweet corn or 2 people selling blueberries or fish. And if we have, say, 15 people out of the 22 that grow tomatoes, all those vendors, all those growers are bringing tomatoes home because we have too many. Because when you have vendors bringing product home, and they've already not bringing what they should bring, because we have so many people selling, in my case, sunflowers. And I know the market has changed over the years, but years ago I could sell 250 bunches. I'm lucky if I sell 16. That much of a difference. So this year so far I'm 18% down from last year. Last year was 14 down. So letting the quota, or whatever you want to call it, of us having a meeting post-season, looking at how many people sold this, how many people sold that, and then asking those vendors, well, did you bring stuff home every week? So then we can kind of determine, well, we've got too many people selling this. We should let more people in selling it.
One, that's why we need a representative from every part of the market, food truck, vegetables, cut flowers, meats, and then 2, and I forgot my train of thought. Wow. That's done, went out. I'll think of it here in a second what the other thought was, but
Maybe related to the survey.
no, I don't know what it was.
Valerie, Diane, what do you guys think about?
Oh, but strawberries, like for instance, you need more strawberry vendors. We know that. The boots on the ground knows you just don't have enough strawberry vendors.
So
So
they're selling out too early.
yeah, there is some things that you need. Peaches, this year was a little bit weird, as you will
It was
say,
a lot weird, yeah.
and sweet corn too.
Especially for strawberries.
Yeah. So there is some things that, we'll step up, or as a vegetable grower, you'll say, well, we ain't got enough of it, or that's a fruit, I guess, but we need more of this. So, and it, like I said, it puts more on you, Brian, because it's more of the management thing.
So you're telling me that as a municipal government, you want me to come in and tell people what they can and cannot sell at a municipal.
Other markets do.
When they apply for an application, you see they've got flowers, maybe we've got 6 people selling flowers, we're okay.
Well, what about people that are already in the market? Because I know, let's say the
Well,
situation right now
okay.
is between you and an existing vendor.
Okay, and
Who wins in that
there was
fight?
another vendor that 2 years ago did not have on their application flowers, and they sold flowers. 75% less than what I sold mine for. And that was addressed. Next week they had it on their application.
I mean, I know Effingham
It's still
does it.
75% less.
Effingham does it, and Evanston, Chicago does it. I don't know how they do it, but they regulate what comes in there. I don't know
So
how-
yeah, that's part of the job.
I mean, well, I am just not sure that as a municipal government, like I will contact, I will do some research and see how. they
And I know
deal with that.
Springfield done it, this has been years ago, and they got sued, but they won. They got sued by a vendor.
So perhaps the staff direction is to investigate other municipalities who do this and see kind of what their rules and what that looks like. We're just giving you all the work, Brian.
Well, I mean, I've noticed this from, not particularly what we sell, but other people that go, wow, like, I'm going to use you, Ken, as an example. Some produce people, they're like, man, Ken's, he sells a lot of sunflowers. I'm going to start bringing sunflowers. And I'm just using that as an example. And so all of a sudden, boom, now they've got sunflowers on their table. When they never have had sunflowers, but people will go out to that market and they go, oh, that's really selling good. I'm gonna start bringing some of that stuff with me too. And all of a sudden you've got more and more stuff with, if your main purpose is to sell meat, that's what you sell. If mine is my dog business, or my stuff, or vegetables, then all of a sudden people have a little this, a little this, a little this, a little this. Then that does, it cuts into your pocket, into my, and so you have to have a whether in this market you say, well, we're only going to have 10 of this group and 10 of this group and 10, But if once you have like 15 or 20 selling this particular thing, nobody makes money.
So
I know it's a hard
The
call.
way of capitalism.
let's do some investigation
But I
and
don't think
see what Springfield, Chicago, and what was the other one? Evanston?
Effingham.
Effingham.
That's
Effingham,
Wild Wild
Springfield, and
West. That's
Chicago.
Wild Wild West though down there.
Effingham?
Yeah.
All right. See what they do, and maybe in December you can bring back something to us.
Springfield don't. I said they did.
Oh,
This has been
sorry.
years ago, and I'm not involved no more. So they've had a lot of issues. So I don't call Springfield because they got problems with
All
that.
right.
That's hilarious.
I'll take a look and see.
Does that
They're
come up
getting
when
ready
you
to
met
get
with
rid
your
of the
rural
market,
person?
so they got problems of their own.
So we went and we visited with the arts and culture person and the farmers market director of Aurora, Illinois, and I guess it didn't come up at that time, but we have those contacts too. Aurora's now got 2 farmers markets.
So I know we've kept Brian 25 minutes over. He
Yeah.
said he had to leave at
I gotta-
6:30.
Yeah, I sent a text saying I'd be late, so I've got another 5 minutes. Sorry.
So is there any other comment on the vendor product selection that we should take into consideration? All right. I do not believe. Oh, we have new business. Is there any new business? There's nothing listed here. Is anything
I think
else in
I-
new business?
Food truck rep, Shea, and then year-round facility. So I brought up what I have right now.
Okay, excellent.
I just have one quick thing, and
Yeah.
it is, I've been noticing a lot of vendors that are either coming in late. They'll start setting up at 7:30. I know, I'm sorry, Brian. Or they just decide, well, I'm done, I'm gonna leave. Now, if you sell out, that's one thing, but just up and leave, that, I don't know, I just kind of,
So-
they just up my crawl, so.
It is in the handbook that vendors can arrive late if they
Okay.
walk their materials in. It is also in the handbook that people are not allowed to be driving through the market, and I have
We had
enforced
a lot of
that.
that this year.
Anybody knows where Crack was for the last 2 weeks? They weren't at the market because they drove through.
Yeah, good.
So I will also be sending out an email reminder this week about potential rain and how if you're at the market, you're staying at the market or you're walking your materials out. So I'm trying to crack down on that.
I like that.
But if the market starts at 7, you should be set up and ready to go, not be coming your stuff in at 7:30, 8 o'clock.
There are all kinds of crazy things that go
I
on out there
know.
that I just cannot keep track of. It is a big place. I know people in that south row. Yeah. They just magically show up, and I swear, I have gone through there. I know the gates are closed. I'll do a walkthrough. Nobody's there at 7 o'clock. I'll come back through at 8, and poof, sometimes there's 4 other vendors there. They climb over the bushes. They park on Illinois Street, unload, and climb over the bushes. And it's like, yeah. Am I supposed to stop and tell them they can't come in, or you know.
I don't mind the late arrival as much as I do the early.
The early.
Because it puts holes in
It's
the
just not a
market.
good look.
I mean, it puts holes in the market, and we got enough holes already now.
Yes, the season will, yeah.
Well,
So-
maybe something you could look at for next year is when, I know the market ends at noon, and gosh, I'm ready to go, we're all ready to go. But,
No, I know,
but
yeah.
there's people that come in at 5:10 till,
Yeah.
getting their vehicles in, and you know what? Somebody's gonna get hit one of these times.
I feel so sorry for old.
I mean, I'm literally standing out on Walnut
Every
Street.
single market.
Yeah,
You
I mean, that's where
really
our
don't.
activities
Mark
are.
Shopman sold out a sweet corn at like 9:30 because they just didn't have any.
Yeah, I know.
He sat there in the back of his pickup,
He's a good
and he
guy.
respected
Yes,
the
he
rules in a lawn chair and just sat there because he didn't have no product because of the weather, and he brought what he had. But 9:30 he was out, and he sat there for the rest of the time.
I swear people have driven through those.
He spent a lot of money at the food trucks that day because I kept watching him going back and forth to food trucks. So he probably lost money that day because he didn't eat so dang much.
But no, I
So-
realize those are problems, and yes, dealing with them quite severely nowadays.
I know.
So,
All right. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Yo, got it.
Moved by Stan, seconded by Ken. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.